Good job. You're following your rules.
Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
Hey, Hugh, we have a question here from a trader. The trader says, I want to avoid the fear of missing out, FOMO, as this causes me to break my strategy rules and I have bad results. All right. So my thinking along these lines is that if you are having FOMO, fear of missing out, so you're breaking strategy rules. So it sounds like there was an entry or there may be an entry, right? You don't have your entry yet, but the market's moving. So you're like, I need to get in, right? So in a lot of cases, like people have pullback entries somehow or whatever, right? Like the one that I trade, Tokyo Train, is like that. System 2 trading systems like that, where you're kind of waiting for a pullback to get in. So then you're breaking your strategy rules and you're getting bad results. Okay, so we know that the bad results are coming from breaking your rules, right? If you have strategy that you believe in, you've probably tested it, you probably have the numbers, you probably have some confidence in it, right? If you're getting bad results, you're saying, well, that's because I'm not following my strategy. So really what's going on here is this person is not following the rules, right? They're a slave to the emotion, the fear of missing out. They're a slave to this, oh no, I'm going to miss out on an opportunity. And they're not a slave to their rules. So the reality is, if you want to change your results, assuming you have a strategy that makes money, we don't know that that's the case, but let's assume that, then what you need to do is set up your life so that you are following your rules is the only thing that makes sense, right? Because right now, what makes sense to you is following your emotions, right? Not following your rules. So what you need to do is get away from that and move to a situation where you know that if you follow your rules, you will be rewarded. If you follow your rules, you will have a trading accountability partner or someone who looks over your trades every week, whatever, that says, good job, you're following your rules, even if you lost money that week, right? Because that can happen. You could definitely have a week, especially if your win rate is anywhere around 50% or less. It's quite easy for you to have a losing week, depending on how often you trade. So yeah, so I would just say this at the core is emotional trading. And then it's kind of like this weird blame game where we blame it on, we're having bad results because we're not following the strategy. If I had just followed my strategy, right? We don't know that, because you could follow your strategy and still lose. You could follow a bad strategy, right? It doesn't make money. But in this case, it's just kind of assumed that that's what we have. So that's kind of my thinking for this trader. What are your thoughts on this fear of missing out issue?
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind is something you mentioned before in a previous episode on thinking like on a long enough timeline. So if you said gamblers think on a long timeline, right? They're not so concerned with the current bet. They're concerned with how am I going to perform over like 10,000 bets or 1,000 bets or whatever it is. And I think this is a similar situation where, you have to trade enough so that your advantage plays out. And if you don't do that, then you're always going to be at the whim of your emotions and what looks like a good trade at the moment, but isn't part of your system. So I think if you can think in a longer time frame, you think about, okay, on a long time frame, if I don't follow my rules, I'm going to lose money, right? And if you follow the rules, then you make money. So I think thinking that way helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've been testing a strategy over the last three and a half months or so, where it had a really nasty drawdown, and I was like, it trades almost every day, right? And I was like, but I was thinking in terms of the long term. I said, I think it'll probably pull out of this, and it is interesting that study where they study the best gamblers, that they look at like they look on a really wide horizon and way out into the future. The thing about trading, though, or even gambling, I guess, is that once you look in that really long term, you realize it doesn't make any sense to take huge risks. You know what I mean? That almost becomes like a rookie mistake. You know what I mean? Like, because I remember the first time I got some traders together and I was gonna like give them a crash course in trading, right? I had to, because I just got out of break-even trading. So all of a sudden I'm an expert, right? But one of the things they said was, Like, what are some risk management tools that you know of, or risk approaches to risk management? And you know what they said? They said, well, if the trade looks really, really good, like it's going to be a winner, then risk more. And that blew me away. Even then, I was like, you know what I mean? So that's like that kind of thinking just goes away when you have like you were saying, the long-term gambling thing, where it's like you're going to live for thousands of years, and then how would you operate then? Because then you know that if you have a really small edge, you're going to make a lot of money, like a casino, right? Mm-hmm. Casinos have these really razor thin edges, but they make a lot of money. And why do they make money? Because they just get people that go through the system, and they're skimming off that little bit, like the slot machines that pay out 98.5% or 97.2% or whatever, it pays out. So every dollar that goes through there, 97.5 cents gets spit back out one way or another in the form of jackpots, and they just take that little bit. Well, it's the same with your trading strategies, right? If you're thinking of the long term, you go, who cares if I keep, ending up with these little tiny wins and these little tiny losers, and once in a while I get a big winner or whatever. If I add it up over time, over years, you're going to see a big fat result, because you're compounding and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a really, really good way to look at things. It changes everything. It really does. When you start thinking in terms of long term, there are a lot of really good habits that come to the forefront when you do that. Whereas the crazy gambler doesn't think long term. They just think the next bet, right? Oh, this is a sure thing, right?
Yeah.
So they do that. Yeah.
Bet everything. I think it also helps to think about that in your real life too, right? Like if somebody yells at you on the street or something, or if somebody honks at you in a car, like in the long term, that doesn't really matter. So why are you going to get bent out of shape over that guy, right? He's just an ass or whatever. But I think it helps to look at it that way too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they could, maybe their dog died that morning or something. Like you don't know, you never know what's going on in their life too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Walter. All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and is not trading or investment advice.